Hello, happy July. I'm back with my June books that I read. Um, Surprisingly enough, I made it through seven, which was more than I expected to get through. Some of them I'd been working on for a while, others were just within that month. And I'm hoping that I can do similarly well in July. Um, because who knows what the fall and winter will bring as far as school and busyness and, life. So, my first book is one I've been reading for a while. Um, it's called This is the Canon: Decolonize Your Bookshelf in 50 Books. It is by Joan, Anim, Addo, Deirdre Osborne, and Khadija Sasay. I probably didn't say all of those correctly, but I tried. Um, this is a book about books. Um, so it's 25, I guess you could call them entries, each one about a different um, book by um, a person from a different location or a different culture from around the world. So there's people that I knew. I think Toni Morrison was in here. Um, Give me a second. Uh, Khaled Hosseini, the kite runner guy. There were a couple others that I'd known, and a couple books that I already have, but I'm going to start integrating one of these books into my cycle of books right along with Stephen King. So, this book has definitely helped me put other books into my brain. So it goes chronologically, as from when the books were written. So it starts in 1943, and I believe it was published in 21 or 22, but the last book is from 2019. So it goes straight from 1943 to 2019, and they did a really good job of finding books from all over the world, from different cultures that I had never thought about even reading literature or them having a specific type of literature, which I guess goes to show how Americanized I am. I gave it 5 stars. It's definitely not like a book that you just sit down and read. It's more of like a reference book, I guess. I did read it straight through, and I wrote down all the titles of the books so that I could also go in chronological order because I like to do that. So the first book I will be reading is Love in a Fallen City and Other Stories by Eileen Chang. Yeah, it was really good. It made me think about things that I haven't thought about before or had barely thought about, and I'm excited to put it to use and start reading the books that they recommended. The second book is a hard book to explain. So it's called S, and it's by JJ Abrams um, and Doug Dorst. So the book itself comes in this thing because inside the book there are like different like artifacts that go along with the book. So it's really an interesting like physical thing to have, because it's literally a book within a book within a book. It's a story within a story within a story. So I don't usually like to read the backs, but I don't think I could do it justice by just telling you word of mouth. So I'm just going to tell you what the back says. Um, One book, two readers, a world of mystery, menace, and desire. A young woman picks up a book left behind by a stranger. Inside it are his margin notes, which reveal a reader entranced by the story and by its mysterious author. She responds with notes of her own, leaving the book for the stranger, and so begins an unlikely conversation that plunges them both into the unknown. The book, Ship of Theseus, the final novel by a prolific but enigmatic writer named V.M. Straka, in which a man with no past is shanghaied onto a strange ship with a monstrous crew and launched on a disorienting and perilous journey. The writer, Straka, the incendiary and secretive subject of one of the world's greatest mysteries, a revolutionary about whom the world knows nothing apart from the words he wrote and the rumors that swirl around him. The readers, Jennifer and Eric, a college senior and a disgraced grad student, both facing crucial decisions about who they are, who they might become, and how much they're willing to trust another person with their passions, hurts, and fears. So, the book itself, I'll try to find a page that doesn't, is about a man who wakes up, doesn't know his name. He just goes by S, and he is taken on these adventures on this ship, and like that's the this part that you're reading. But then also you have this stuff which is in the footnotes. So it's when the two characters meet, they start leaving notes back and forth, and then they realize that they're both interested in trying to solve the mystery of who VM Straka really was. So it was a challenge to read because you had to keep both stories straight, and maybe I just am not smart enough. I feel like there was a lot of stuff I missed or that wasn't explained super well. Um, and there were a lot of it's a fictional author, so it's fictional stuff, but they're talking about all these people, and they'll mention names, but they won't tell you who they're talking about or what they have to do with anything. I gave it a 3 because I appreciated the work that went into it. I can't even begin to imagine how they went about doing this. And because it was a cool experience, if that makes sense. I don't know that we usually read books for the experience, but it was cool to have like the little like tie-ins in the pages. So I gave it a 3. If you are have a big brain and you can follow lots and lots of names, I think you would really enjoy this. For me, it was just the complexity of reading the story and then reading the footnotes and trying to keep the story and the footnotes both straight. And they're writing in it at different times. So, like, it's in different colors depending on when they're writing. It was hard to keep it all straight, but I appreciated what it was. It was good. The next one I read is called Slenderman, Online Obsession, Mental Illness, and the Violent Crime of Two Midwestern Girls by Kathleen Hale. And I went into this book thinking that it would be about the trial. If you're not familiar with the trial, there were two girls who really bought into the Slenderman mythology and creepypastas, and they thought that if they sacrificed a friend, they would go and live with Slenderman in his Slenderman mansion with all of the other creepypastas. And one of the girls ends up being a diagnosed schizophrenic, and she really did believe in these things. And it doesn't just talk about the crime itself, it goes on to talk about the trial, and how these girls were treated by the justice system. It talks about mental illness, how we view mental illness as a society, and how we really fail a lot of kids and people in general who suffer from different mental illnesses. I was not expecting to give this 5 stars by any means, but it got 5 stars. I even left it a review on Goodreads, which is not something I do frequently. It was something. I mean, reading about the girls themselves, you feel like you're getting to know them. You feel for all 3 of them, the 2 perpetrators, I guess, and the victim. You feel for the parents. I mean, it's just, she really interviewed a lot of people and went through a lot of research to make this book what it was, and she did a good job. And apparently there is some controversy about the author herself. I guess that she has been accused, I guess, of stalking a Goodread reviewer that didn't like one of her books. I guess she showed up at the person's house and thought about confronting them, didn't confront them. Um, but so there's a lot of people who won't read this book strictly because it's by this lady. Um, I didn't know that until afterward. I looked her up because I really thought the writing was well done, and I was surprised to find that there was some controversy with her. But it was it was interesting. It was interesting if you're interested in the societal effects of like the creepy pastas, the internet, stuff like that. It was interesting if you are into the court system, the justice system, if you're interested in learning about mental illness. It hit a lot of different points. It was good, really good. 5 stars. Um, the next one, I'm not gonna lie, I honestly picked it up because it's written by Mia Farrow's son, and Rosemary's Baby is my favorite book and one of my favorite movies, and I was kind of starstruck. But it ended up being fantastic. So it's called Catch and Kill: Lies, Spies, and a Conspiracy to Protect Predators, and it's by Ronan Farrow, who is a reporter. He's the son of Mia Farrow and Woody Allen, and his sister. Um, Accused Woody Allen of sexual assault and went a long time being dismissed. So he has this history of coming from a family where there has been this shadow over them, and he catches on to the Harvey Weinstein scandal. So I think the first person he talks to is Rose McGowan. Um, and then it was just like pulling the thread off of a seam. It just started to unravel. I mean, there were more and more women stepping up to say, hey, this happened to me, but I'm scared. Either they'd signed an NDA, or they didn't want their careers to be ruined, or their careers had already been ruined, or, I mean, just you name it. This guy was a bully. He would bully people into staying quiet, and he just kept doing what he was doing. And it's written from the perspective of the journalist, Ronan Farrow, who was uncovering this and trying to get NBC to do a story about it. And he pushed and he pushed and he pushed, and they pushed back and they said, we can't do this right now. They gave him reason after reason for why they couldn't do it. And eventually he took it somewhere else, and it turns out that there were people involved there too. So it was really kind of the beginning of the Me Too movement, and one of the first people to be outed by that was Harvey Weinstein, and it was interesting. It also, at the end, talks a little bit about Matt Lauer, which is another name that I associate with that time period, because he worked closely with Matt Lauer while he worked for NBC. So it was just really interesting to see things, and I mean, like, this read like a spy book. Like, he's being followed. I mean, like, the lengths that this guy went to protect his butt are bonkers. Really good. So I gave it 4 stars. It was just maybe a little long for me, but it was fantastic. I would have given it 5 stars if they had tied it up maybe a little bit cleaner or quicklier. That's not a word. More quickly. But yeah, it was crazy. I recommend it if you are interested in that recent part of our history, or if you don't really know a lot about it and you're interested in hearing what led to the Me Too movement being such a impactful thing. Would recommend this. The next book I read was for our July horror book club, and it is called Episode 13 by Craig DiLouie. It is about a film crew who, they have this TV show. They're in the first season, and they're about to wrap up the first season with their episode 13, and they're going to this paranormal research foundation house that has some dark history, and they're really hoping to find some stuff. Um, it is written cool. It's written in like diary entries and text messages and transcripts and things like that, which I enjoy things like that. Um, but I was hoping for more. I wanted it to have more in the way of scary haunted house jump scenes kind of thing. Um, if you've read House of Leaves by the guy who wrote House of Leaves, it had a very similar feel where like the inside of the house is not as it appears on the outside, like the dimensions are different. Um, a lot of that stuff. So if you're into that kind of like paranormal, you might like this. But I wanted more ghosties and jump scares and terror. Um, it wasn't bad. I gave it a 3. I would not go to book club and diss this as much as I've dissed a couple of the books from book club. But it was definitely not my favorite that I've ever read. I've definitely read scarier. But yeah, it was an interesting pick, written in a cool kind of uh, multimodal way, and it was a nice quick read. Uh, the next book I read was actually for professional development. I don't know if I should actually include it because it's going to be interesting to a very limited audience, and I didn't even give it a very good rating. So, it's called Where Great Teaching Begins, Planning for Student Thinking and Learning by Anne R. Reeves. And I appreciate what its purpose is. I think I would have read it in college. It refers to a lot of books I did read in college. Um, but this wasn't a good pick for me. At the end of the year, they presented us with a lot of different books that we could choose to do a book study on to get professional development. I don't need professional development, but I like to read and learn things. So I picked this one thinking that maybe it would have some new stuff in it. Really, it's just a lot about essential questions and working backward design. If you're familiar with teaching in the last 15 years, it's nothing new. It's a lot of the same old. Start with your end goal and work backwards. And I gave it a 3. It's good. You could use this in a college classroom. It was not anything new to me, if that makes sense. The last book, okay, so freaking good. If I could give it a 6, I would give it a 6, but I gave it a 5. So it's called Don't Tell Me to Relax, Emotional Resilience in the Age of Rage, Feels, and Freakouts by Ralph de la Rosa. And initially when I picked this book up, it was in the self-help section, which is a section I frequent. I was expecting it to be, I was just looking at the Don't Tell Me to Relax. So I was like, oh, it's going to be about anxiety and like, it's never helpful when somebody tells you to relax and blah, blah, blah. Boy, was I wrong. So Ralph de la Rosa is a practicing Buddhist. He is a recovered addict, or a recovering addict, I guess maybe you would say. And it was about how to be an empathetic human in a world that walks all over you. Because it can get tiring being a bleeding heart when it's just a constant battle, swimming against the current type thing. He goes into how to stay true to who you are and stick up for what you believe in while still being a kind person. He talks about the difference between kindness and niceness, in that, nice is not always real or genuine, and kind is something that like comes from a place of good. He talks a lot about um, how to be more self-empathetic. So the empathy that you share with other people, how to turn that inward and not be quite as mean to yourself. It was fantastic. There's a page that I just want to read. Um, It was fantastic. Just okay. To live from vibrant love in a world where degrading structures prevail, this is both our predicament and its answer. The predicament: here we are, opening our hearts to compassion through meditation, working for an equitable world, or at least a world where torture, slavery, poverty, and public manipulation by the powerful are eradicated. And yet it is work that has no end. The answer: to live a life rooted in love for the world and all beings, even if it is all unfixable. To care courageously in the middle of the tumult. To organize as an act of engaged meditation. To confront bigotry not because of our modern situation, but because that is just what we do. To have compassion not because we expect it to be effective, but because it is our ethos, our sole imperative. To rise up unconditionally for the sake of rising up, even if we can't fix our world, how will we live? Even if no one is watching, what choices will we make? Even if our action bears no consequence, how will we act? Even if climate change were to decimate the planet tomorrow, let us go out protecting the planet and its inhabitants. Living for justice is not only about changing our social circumstances, but also about being able to square up with our moral hearts when we face ourselves in the mirror at day's end. Um, it really gave me like an Atticus Finch vibe of what how to live. You have to look at yourself at the end of the day, and you have to be okay with who you are. Are you doing the best that you can do, not just in giving the best of yourself, but are you striving to make a difference in the best way that you know how? And it was just, it had different aspects of Buddhism that I had not really learned about. I've read different books by different Buddhist authors, um, and I have liked them, but he told a lot of different stories from their teachings and things like that, and it was just really good. Just the idea of no matter what, are we doing good? Not are we doing well, but are we trying to do good and be good? Highly, highly recommend this if sometimes you feel like the world is running you over. Fantastic book. Cannot give it enough stars and kisses and brilliancy. So that was my last book. So I had two 5 starers this month, which is pretty impressive out of 7 books. So I'm currently reading 20-ish books. I hope to have 5 of them finished by the end of the month. And I will see you next month. And as always, tell me what you're reading so that I can hop on the boat and read what you're reading. Bye.